What would you have done differently with the 1031 crunch time?
What's resonated most in my brain is have that piece identified before you sell the first piece. That's hard to do. It's easy to say here on a podcast, and the market's been quick, quick, quick. So how do you do that in a competitive market? Maybe you don't, but from guys who I know who've done it and done it well, they know the piece they're going to buy, and that's their main focus. It's not about selling the old one because it's hot and ready to sell. If it's hot and it's a turnkey place, it's going to sell. So I should have had my ducks in a little bit different row, and I
Yeah.
will have next time. I'll have the next piece identified, have some sort of handshake deal or something written out before I list the other one for sale.
Jared, welcome back to the Land Podcast. It's great to have you.
Thanks, Jake. Excited to be here. Thanks for having me back.
Absolutely. Now, we were just talking here. This has been kind of by accident. I did an episode with Shane Albert, and that was like a follow up episode from because I've been doing it long enough now that it's like we can go back and revisit previous guests and see what else they've learned. And I thought of you, and I was like, man, you had bought a piece with conservation easement. You had sold your original farm, and I know you're constantly working on a variety of different things and learning new things. So I figured you were a perfect candidate to throw into this series here. So how's everything going, Jared?
Good, good. I don't know about me and perfect in the same sentence, but we're grinding every day, and things are looking good. So I
No.
love your podcast. You have been there long enough now to get some of these repeat, track the progress over the years, which is a great idea.
Mhm.
And yeah, happy to be here. So thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. So, real quick, give us your land real estate journey um, pre this episode, so then we can fill in the gap of everything that's happened since the last time you've been on here.
Great, I can do that. First, when I was 30 years old, it was 8 years ago. That's how I have to do the math. I bought a 15-acre piece, my first piece. I We had an episode on that on
Hmm.
this show a ways back. That was I owned that for 5 years. Sold that piece. I bought a piece in northern Michigan, 70 acres. That's kind of our family property, conservation easement on there. We did an episode on that, which was pretty cool. That's been a success. We shot a nice 8 point off there last year for the first time. I'm talking northern Michigan, where it's pretty tough. Um,
Yeah.
but that's awesome. We go up there all the time in the wintertime, and it's a beautiful piece. And then since then, right after I bought the 15, I'm sorry, I sold the 15, one of my listeners reached out. First of all, one of my listeners bought the 15.
It's crazy.
Another listener sold me his 40. So now I own 40 acres close to my house, about 25 minutes away. And I've had that for almost 2 years. November will be 2 years.
Yeah, I
So
remember. I remember when you were in the process of buying that. We talked a little bit about that. Um, crazy, the power of podcast. I mean, you sold it and found a new one, all in one swoop. There. Have you stayed in touch with the guy that bought the 15? Because I know you had put a lot of work into it, and if there was ever the term turnkey where it would be appropriate, it would be that farm. So have you? I'm sure you stay in touch with that guy. It'd be fun just hear quickly how that's been since you kind of gave him the keys to the place.
yeah, I know him. I know his wife, know his kids. He's a good friend of mine. They've had some great success out there. His wife shot a beautiful buck. He shot a few bucks out there, and turnkey. That place was turnkey, Jake, and I didn't realize that near as much as so when I bought the 40, how turnkey that place was.
Yeah, it's funny because all of it takes time, right? To get it up to snuff, and I'm sure when you walked the 40 for the first time, you had at least 80% of the idea of what you would like to do down the road. But then, you're a busy dude, and all that takes time and money, or most typically both. So real quick on the 40, because I don't think we've talked about that on the land podcast. So let's talk about that process, when you found out about it, and just kind of walk through that and transaction, because I think that'll kind of help build off where we left off.
Yeah, great question. I know that we were talking, I was asking you questions about the market when I was thinking about selling the 15. And my realtor buddy here was like, hey, it's a great time. And you were like, hey, it's a great time. I'm like, all right, well, let's put it for sale. I did that. Let's roll it into the 1031 exchange. I did that. And problem is, it sold right away, and I could not find another piece in time.
Yeah.
Um, and I couldn't even identify something I really wanted. And I'm learning about the 1031 and still am. And ended up that 45 days expired. So I took a risk, and I paid for the 1031, with the attorney. So it wasn't a huge loss, the fact that I was not able to do that. But I wanted to learn, I wanted to try it, I wanted to get my feet wet. And now going into my next purchase later on in life, I'm going to know more what to do on that. But the 40 I closed on in November of that same year. So that's 23. Sold in 23, bought in 23. And I mean, as soon as that 1031 exchange was done, I get the text about this 40 acres. I might sell it to you. I'm like, oh. So
Yeah.
literally timing was off, but ended up getting that, meeting with the guy, walking it a couple times. Um, and then we kind of, went back and forth on a price. What do you want for it? What do I want to pay for it? We ended up kind of meeting in the middle, and he did very well on his deal for owning the piece for a couple years, and mine is yet to be determined. So,
Fair. What would you have done differently with the 1031 crunch time? Would you have just had a more flexible closing on your 15 and said, "Hey, you know, give me a strong earnest money deposit and we'll be flexible. You can start doing things, but I just need more time to identify a new piece." I mean, what now that you that's behind you, what would you have done differently? Because this is a very
yeah.
common issue.
Okay. Okay, that's good to know. I didn't even think about that. That would have been probably easily done.
Hmm.
you know, More flexible closing time, drawing it out, giving the guy the permission to do whatever he wants and get ready for season while I had some more time to shop. What's resonated most in my brain is have that piece identified before you sell the first piece. That's hard to do. It's easy to say here on a podcast, and the market's been quick, quick, quick. So how do you do that in a competitive market? Maybe you don't, but from guys who I know who've done it and done it well. They know the piece they're going to buy, and that's their main focus. It's not about selling the old one because it's hot and ready to sell. If it's hot and it's a turnkey place, it's going to sell.
Hmm.
So I should have had my ducks in a little bit different row, and I
Yeah.
will have next time. I'll have the next piece identified, have some sort of handshake deal or something written out before I list the other one for
Mhm.
sale.
Yeah, the 1031 limbo is definitely a challenge, and I think another challenge sometimes is, let's say, a really good farm that you did not anticipate coming up for sale, and you still need to sell your farm in order to buy the new one. Um, that's where maybe having a potential, you know, everything's for sale, and it doesn't hurt to always say that. Like, I would sell this if I found something, whatever key attributes of why you would sell it, because it's a lot to potentially line up, especially if the new farm is something that potentially could sell quickly, and then it's a very big challenge for sure. And I need to get 1031 specials on here on everything you can and can't do, because that's one of the most common questions on trying to line all your ducks in a row. So that's a lesson. And so it is what it is. It all
Yeah.
shakes out in the grand scheme of things. Does it suck to pay a little capital gains tax? Yeah, but you were still able to, get it sold for a price that you felt comfortable with, and buy a new piece that you were comfortable with. Going into the 40, how far was the 15-acre piece from where you lived?
An hour and 15 minutes.
Okay, so you wanted to be closer to home. I'm sure it was a big part of that.
Yeah.
And then you ended up finding the 40. What When you were going through the pros and cons list of that farm, what did that look like?
Yeah, and real quick on your other point, one more thing you might want to keep in mind as a landowner is if you want to be fluid or liquid with your current piece for that next piece, your current piece has to be ready to go. You
Yes.
know, so I sat on mine for like a year trying to learn it before I did a lot to it. And we had a Habitat Day event this year, and I busted all year, and now it's looking really good. Now I feel better, like I'm more in a liquid state for that if I need to be.
Hmm.
Um, Back to your question, my gut thoughts on the 40. It was all timber. It's the second piece that I bought that's 100% timber. Um, what I liked about it was in the middle of a 2 mile section.
Hmm.
So there's an easement off a road which comes to it, which I think in real estate might be a con versus road frontage, but for a deer hunter, I'm cool with it. Um, is way back in the middle. I'm the biggest piece of cover in the section, me and my neighbors, and there's not a lot of food around in that area. So I thought, okay, I could make something more effective here with some plots or some timber work, some natives. But there's a lot of state land about a mile away in a
Hmm.
couple of different directions. So my thought is, if everybody goes and blows out this Michigan state land, which happens every year,
Right.
where are those deer going to go? I'm the next spot, literally. So that all kind of went to it. I thought it had a little timber value, but the guy I bought it from, a friend of mine now, he said, I had somebody lowball me some timber value in here. It's not that much. I'm like, okay, well maybe I'll get a little out of it, put towards some projects. And it was close to home. I didn't think the close to home thing would be as cool to me as it is. Um, it's very convenient being 25 minutes from home.
I can imagine.
So all those things stacking up. He had a history there. Not a great history as like a turnkey piece would be, but I just saw the potential for sure.
Hmm. Yeah. What when you ended up did you end up getting the timber reassessed? Was that within line what he had kind of got for way more?
Yeah,
Okay, that's kind of kind of
yeah.
what I was guessing. Yeah.
So it's like with timber, and I've learned this. I've logged all three of my parcels that I've owned over the years, and you have to find the right guy, the right
Yeah.
partner. Everybody's willing to go in there and lowball you and do it for nothing and pay you nothing or whatever or very little. I had a good experience, a fairly good experience. We're talking logging here. A fairly good experience on my 70. So those guys came down and they gave me a bid, and it was like four times what the gentleman had told me he was offered. And markets change, right? Soft
Yep.
maple was doing good at that time, so it ended up being quite a bit more than what I had originally anticipated, which definitely helps the investment.
Yeah. For sure. Okay. Um what else with the 40 made you bring out your checkbook other than, was there any X factor? I mean, you had mentioned big block of cover. You had mentioned that more than likely there's gonna be a lot of pressure in the nearby area and you can control the pressure on your farm. So you're hoping to suck in bucks from another area. Was there anything else that you just loved about the farm? Because you had to walk it a few times. So it wasn't like you fell in love right away. Or maybe you did, but I'm just trying to, because sometimes people I feel like right away, yes, that's absolutely it. And then I've seen it where like, no, let's go back, and they like it a little bit more each time they go because maybe the first time they rush through it, and then second time, oh yeah, they notice a different ridge, or like the third time, like man, it's really quiet out here and really peaceful. Was that like why did it take multiple times to figure out that was what you wanted to buy?
Yeah, it was definitely the latter for me. In this county, there is not a ton for sale, and when it does go for sale, it sells pretty high. Um, that was sticking in my brain as like you can't screw this up, right? Just it
It's a
has to
good
be
opportunity.
it
Yeah.
has to be a good opportunity. But I was not in love with the piece when I walked it.
Hmm.
It's all low ground. There's a couple of higher points. I had to make sure it perked just for my investment, insurance purposes in terms of my brain. Like, okay, it's got to be okay at least. And then I walked it twice, and then I had a good buddy of mine who I've had on the podcast a few times, Corey. He came out there and his eyes were lighting up about potential, you know, ideas and this and that. But he's also a sales guy, so I'm taking that with a grain of salt, going, all right, yeah, he's being positive and helpful. But it was not 100% sure feeling for a while.
Mm-hmm.
It was just like a lot of neighbors. I hope this low ground. So it perked out. And now that I'm learning how to control some of the water,
When you say perked out, you're talking perk tests, like
perk
percolation
tests,
tests.
yes.
Okay, all
Yep.
right. I
Yep.
don't know if like pros and cons perks, like perks. So like just so everyone listen, a perk test, you
Thank
could
you.
build a structure on this.
Thank you. Yes. And I just thought if that's going to be there, you know, I could build back here at some point. Somebody could build back here at some point. Um, so yeah, that all just kind of weighed in, and I didn't really start getting a great feeling about it probably for about a year.
Mhm,
I was sitting down, I'm like, okay, I hunted it, wasn't very good. I know what I can do. I know the stuff that we talk about all the time works. The stuff you do on your farm, stuff you talk about, it'll work. It's just I wasn't quite seeing it as clearly yet. So it took a little while. It wasn't the thing where you walk in and it was like, let's go. It was not
mhm.
that.
That's interesting, but I think you bring in a really interesting point about you have to be realistic. I've talked about this. I think it was on the Buckland Funding podcast where it's like some areas you only get so many, quote unquote pitches to look at, and if you want to be in a specific area, and so did that weigh pretty heavily into your decision making process of like if I want to be in this county, I want to be 25 minutes away from home. This is probably one of the better opportunities I'm going to have. Is it perfect? No. Is it good enough that I like it a lot and I have a vision? Yes. Is that kind of what your thought process was?
Yeah, but I would also weigh in and say that there was not anything else available.
Mhm.
Like I would have had slim pickings 2 years ago in the market. Um, and I once I sold the 15, I'm like, now what do I do with all my time and
Felt like a
passion
lost
and
puppy.
yeah, I did. And it was like, all right, well, this is a good area. And I just felt like I could do something with it,
Mhm.
and I truly felt that, or I wouldn't have bought it. And I think that anybody can do that too. I mean, that's anybody can build the plan and build the habitat, and deer will show up. So
Today, what is how much is available there? Like, has inventory come up at all?
yeah, oh yeah,
Okay.
yep.
Okay.
Are you talking bucks or land?
For land. So, like, if you didn't buy the 40 and
Gotcha.
so, like, pretend you don't have the 40, but you have the money for it in your pocket. If you had to go out and shop right now, and I don't know how much you're shopping because you're probably not in a
I am
position or not. Okay, so you are shopping. If you wanted to buy something in that vicinity again, is it still very limited inventory to pick out what you would want to buy?
extremely, yeah, extremely. There's one or two farms at the north end of the county, and they're like twice the price. So, I mean, that's it. I already know it was a good move based on that. And I look all the time. I'm like you. I have the emails from some realtor friends, and I check the market, kind of stay in touch with it. And still, there's not a lot for sale in the county.
Hmm. Hmm. Well, I think when a county has tight inventory, a lot of time the prices do seem to accelerate up, a little bit faster just because, it's the competition, right? People want to be in this area and, similar to you, like, hey, this is what my options are and this is where I want to be. And do I love it? Yeah. But, it's like, I'm just trying to illustrate that it sounds like it had worked out for you. Now, if you want to know where property boundaries are for public or private, you want to develop a great plan for your farm. Document perfect access to a blind, to a tree stand, carve out and measure food plots, connect your mulch trail cameras to an app that shows exactly where they're at, and you can look at the feed for that specific camera location. Then Onyx is something you need to check out. It is the only mapping software I use when it comes to deer hunting. I've tried other pieces of software, different apps, and I always go back to Onyx because I think it is the most comprehensive, easy to use, and robust mapping software there is when it comes to hunting and land ownership. You want to send a pen to a friend, boom, send it to them right to text, opens it up. Maybe you have notes, maybe you have pictures on that pin, transfers all of it. You want to send a whole entire folder of a plan that you mocked up, you can do that on Onyx. So be sure to check out Onyx. They are a huge supporter of the Land Podcast. They allow us to travel around and talk to some folks that can give you really good insight and good information no matter where you're at in your process of buying land. Let's get back to the conversation. Getting into the projects, it sounds like it was pretty raw. And when I said inventory, you're like, oh yeah, it's getting better. So now I want to talk about the habitat projects that you like. What was the first or second thing on your punch list when you bought it? Like these two things are the most glaringly obvious things that need to be fixed, and I need to get to work on this.
Yeah, I would say the amount of sunlight hitting the forest floor was nil to 2%. Like it was bad. And
Hmm.
my neighbors right around there are still like that. They haven't logged, so I can tell every time I pull in what it used to look like compared to what mine looks like. Um, that was number one, and I had the loggers in there as soon as I could. Um, you know, no offense to loggers, but they took a lot longer than they were supposed to, and so the fact that they might not even show up before last year's hunting season, even though they said they would. Me and two buddies went in there and we cut in a kill plot in July and August. You
Hmm.
know, 85 degrees. Got it cut in, and I at least had to have something to get going on and make a focal point for the property. That was number one. And then all of a sudden the loggers, oh yeah, we'll be there September 1st. Well, we open October 1st. I'm like, crap. But then again, get in there. Okay, just go.
Got to get done. Yeah.
Got to get it done. Got to get down the punch list. And they were in there till probably the first week of October. They did not cut enough or everything they were supposed to in terms of the junk. They took a lot of everything that was worth the money. They made sure they got that. But it still was done, and it's still, they were out of there early October. So those were the
Mhm.
first two things that I did.
And that's something you guys talk about a lot on your podcast, the Habitat podcast, is about farms not getting enough sunlight and it being a huge added bonus. So that got cut would have been last September. Okay,
Yes,
so
sir.
then
Yep.
looking into this year's growth, were you holding more deer, uh, like with a really one summer of growing season, of regeneration? Did you see that make a 1 year impact?
Most definitely. And I
Yeah.
don't even think the growth is even there yet. Like,
Hmm.
we had some stuff come up in areas, some forbs, some autumn olive trying to come up, but really I still have a lot of cutting to do. But
Hmm.
what they did do is they made these nice big logging roads to these corners of the parcel. They gave me an access road that I conned them into giving me before they left. And that's infrastructure. That's stuff you want to do right away. That so there was at least a light at the end of the tunnel. I got a couple things done, but now with this summer, I've been working since January, and now I've made a really big impact. There's a bunch of food plots in there now, a couple bedding areas, stuff like that. So it really it was great that they were in there. I wish I would have cut more, so now I have to cut more.
Yeah. If you had to do that over again, would you have like negotiated a different contract where like you don't get to pull these logs off until all of this is cut? I mean, and the only reason I ask is just so people know if they're in a similar boat or similar position and they can learn from you.
Yeah, I would. What I would do is I would forego the hunting season and try to find somewhere else to spend your time and chase deer, which I did have, and make sure that it gets done correctly. Loggers have contracts that are usually extremely vague, so the more you can put in on the front end of that, um, the more accountable you can hold them. And yeah, a lot of the hickory would have been cut out that I didn't want. Some of the medium maple would have been cut out that I didn't want. That's still blocking the sun on the majority of the property, which is in turn keeping a lot of the standing water sitting there all summer. You get a
Mm,
spot on one of my roads where the sun hits, that clay dries right out. It's rock hard. 10 feet over where it's shaded all year, there's still a puddle there from April,
yeah.
right? So some of that now is I'm learning a ton throughout this whole process on just doing it right the first time, even though it's October and I want you guys out of there. You're not done yet. Don't leave yet. Finish
Yeah.
up.
I mean, if I were in your shoes too, anyone that buys a new farm so excited and eager to hunt
Hmm.
it for the first year, and I could definitely see where it's like, okay, yeah, it's done enough and it's good enough. Get out of here so I
Get
can
out
start
of here.
hunting. Yeah.
Get out of here. Yeah.
Oh man, yeah. What about was that a different? I assume that was a different outfit than did your conservation easement property up north.
It was the same mill. I thought it
Okay.
was going to be the same logging outfit as well, which that guy up there, that was all really nice veneer, hard maple, and he cut
Yeah.
every tree by hand. Took his time, took like a year to do 70 acres. These guys, they cut by hand too, but they had 3 or 4 guys and they were in there for 4 weeks and cut about the same amount of trees.
Wow.
Um, so yeah, I same mill, which is the reason I think I got a good paycheck from it
Hmm.
because these guys, they're like, all right, it's good timber, let's grab it. They're not trying to be too greedy, but a different outfit for sure,
Hmm.
different logging outfit.
From when the guy you bought it from, general price or value of timber versus what you received, and if you're willing to share it, was it like 2x, 3x, 4x, 5x of let's say it was let's say he said it was worth $10,000. Was it four times as much, two times as much?
Yeah, exactly. He told me exactly 10,000. He's like, I'm not gonna worry about it. And the guy, he's not hurting, so he's just like, I don't want the disturbance. I don't,
Yeah.
10 grand, whatever. And I think I netted like 46 out of it.
Yeah.
So it's good to help pay some taxes and fund some projects for a little while.
Yeah, for sure. And holding costs too. I mean, that's another
Hmm.
thing. And it sounded like what were all the species that they and it's every part of the country seems to have a pretty drastically different timber market. But was it mainly like maples? Was there white oak? Like what were some of the main species that they wanted to take out of it?
Yeah, they were in there, and their eyes were lighting up for white oak,
Hmm.
red oak, and then big soft maple. So being low ground, they had a lot of big soft maple on the back end, which I didn't really know there was a huge market for that, but they wanted them bad. And the oaks. So the whole place was littered in white oaks, and I cut most of them down.
Hmm.
Um, Again, that sounds, a little bit against the grain of what you want to do, but Dr. Craig Harper and some of these guys have done research where, you free one white oak, give it all the sunlight it needs, it'll drop more acorns than 10 other shaded out white oaks. So
Hmm.
knowing that and having come in, cut them, take them, good timber. I do have white oaks remaining, and now I know exactly where they are because there's only a few of them. And
Hmm.
they, when they drop, they're going to be hot spots versus kind of a drawn out canvas over 40 acres.
Hmm. What else was on your punch list to get done before Habitat Day? Because it's like you're the habitat guy, right? And it's like and everything's always under construction, especially when you've only had the farm for a short amount of time. But what were you like, man? I got to get this and this done before all these guys show up, and when they leave, they're like, "What is Jared doing? All this isn't done yet."
Right, and that was yeah, no, exactly, and that was kind of the prequel on the property. I'm like, guys, thanks for coming, but this is a work in progress, right?
Yeah.
Um, I cut in a really nice bedding area, a lot of hinge cutting, typical felling, on the back corner where the deer already kind of like to bed. So that was, spring, winter, spring. Um, the logging roads getting those kind of widened out to actually be a little bit of a food plot.
Hmm.
So I did that in a few spots, and then I cut in another kill plot by hand, and then a third kind of destination plot was that very first kill plot I mentioned. We cut that and made that 3 times, 4 times as big.
Wow.
So did all that. A lot of the prep was honestly up front where the logging deck was, the landing deck.
Hmm.
It's kind of a muddy clay mess. So we had vendor tents set up. We had campers in there, people parking. So getting some sand brought in, getting all that leveled out, controlling some of the water there. Um, those are a lot of it was, chainsaw and dirt work for the most part.
Yeah. How much anxiety did you have when you're like, okay, so you did this in August, the field day, the habitat
Yeah,
day?
yeah,
How was there like a party where your skin was crawling a little bit? Like, man, I have 30, 40, 50 people out here crawling around every inch of my farm. I mean, there was time to separate. The reason I bring it up is just because I think it's kind of fun because I know I would be crawling, my skin would be crawling if I had 40 people out walking
yeah,
every inch of my farm.
yeah. You hit the nail on the head there. It was crawling for a couple reasons. Number one, I had some nice bucks on camera that weren't there the years before, and then we bring 45 people in there from 7 different states, who all drove a long way to get there. So I'm like, well, you know what? This is why I do the podcast. I talk about it every week. I need to show it off. I need to
Yeah.
showcase it. I need people to learn more than I need to kill a deer this fall. So I was trying to be not very selfish there and just it'll if it's the right property, if you do the right habitat work, those deer will be back. I know
Hmm.
I'm the best habitat within a couple mile area.
Wow.
So if that's the case, they're gonna be back. And the bucks were all back 6 days later. We had
Wow.
45 people walking through every inch of that place. And even after we had the walkthrough, my buddy Corey and I went on our e-bikes and rode around showing him. He got there late. We jumped another 8 point out of the hinge cut bedding area that I don't know if he was there all day. I don't think so. Or he came in to feed that evening. We jumped him again, but they were in there right away, as soon as I was done. The other reason my skin was crawling is because, man, I hope this is worth it for these people to come. We had multiple people drive 12 hours
Wow.
from Iowa, Missouri, West Virginia, to come hang out. And
That's
the
really
feedback,
cool.
yeah, the feedback I got was really good. But that's probably what I was most nervous about. Honestly, was just making it worth everybody's time.
Yeah. Well, if that's not a testament of the power of good habitat, I don't know what is because that's really interesting to hear. Within
Especially in
six
Michigan,
days, right? Yeah.
right?
On top of that, yeah, when the deer, I swear they're the probably there might as well have been mountain lions running around in Michigan because they're probably just as jumpy.
Yes,
Let me ask you
yeah.
this: so I know you've hunted out of state in the past. Give me a comparison of a Iowa whitetail from their demeanor versus a 4-year-old Michigan buck. So 4-year-old whitetail in Iowa, or pick your Midwest state. I just know you've hunted Iowa before, so
Yep.
that's the reason I bring it up. To a Michigan 4-year-old buck, is there that much of a difference? I want to hear it from the source right now.
All right. Well, hopefully, don't ruffle too many feathers. I've hunted. Let's see, Iowa, Nebraska,
Illinois.
Illinois, Ohio, eh, a couple others I'm probably thinking of. There's a difference. There's a difference. Will I say that an Illinois buck or an Iowa buck is still not going to bed in a perfect vantage point and catch you coming into your blind? He will still do that. It
Hmm.
happened to me last year. But the ground scent and the residual scent that I leave on my farm here, I think is 20 to 30 times more detrimental than regular boot scent out of state. I've seen
Mm,
that just because you'll have a buck come in and cross your path and he doesn't even know it's there. You have a buck come in here, cross your path, he stops, freaks out, gets the heck out of Dodge. Um, and that's scent control or not scent control. It's hard to beat a deer's nose. I just think that the pressure here, they just have to survive. We
hmm.
have a lot of hunters. Everybody hunts here, and everybody hunts where you guys are all at too. But I just feel like something's been ingrained in them over the years to not have any level of acceptance, or at least a lot lower level of acceptance than out of state bucks.
Hmm. Do you feel like your farm is more forgiving because of the habitat too? Like, imagine
Yeah.
if you did the 45-day or the 45 people on a field day when it was wide open timber. Number one, you probably wouldn't be holding that many deer to begin with. But number two, do you think that the deer just feel way more secure and safe because of all the different visual barriers and quality habitat, quality browse, where they're like, yeah, there's something funny that happened here, but I still feel really safe in this part of the farm.
I do think so, and I think what also goes into that, besides having all the cover and the habitat, and you and I talked about this last week or two on my show. Um, we did it in the middle of the day. You know, I'm out there quite a bit working all summer. I'm not sneaking around at daybreak in camo, tiptoeing, quiet. We're loud. We're coming through. We're done.
Hmm.
That a lot of guys will leave their tractor running, like like you mentioned when
Yeah.
you put up a blind and stuff like that. I think that's part of it, but to your point, the habitat and having the only sunlight and ground cover, side cover around compared to every other block around me, they can see 100 yards. I can see 100 yards. That's what they need. That's what they
Yeah.
need.
What What, how much, if you had to put a percentage amount or number amount on a scale 1 to 10, like what do you feel the habitat in the farm was the day you bought it on a scale 1 to 10? And I think the way to measure that is the amount of deer using it. Like if you had to
Yeah.
say where that fell roughly.
Yeah. Good question. I'd say like a two or a three, maybe with all those white oaks in there. That was that was pretty nice.
Hmm.
Being the location it was coming in was nice, being in the middle of the block. But we hunted out there the first year. I closed November 7th. We hunted out there like that weekend. We saw two spikes come by. I could see forever. The next year I hunted after having the loggers in there. Um, I blew a stalk on like a 135-inch 10 point and saw some other nice bucks later in the season. Didn't bow hunt it a ton. And then this year, I've had a bachelor group of 5 or 6 nice bucks in there all year. So now I'd say I'm at a maybe 6, 7. There's still a lot of work to do,
For sure.
but I think I've doubled the value
Yeah.
hunting wise and habitat wise since I've been there.
That's amazing. And that's a pretty quick time, honestly.
Anybody
Like,
can do it, you
yeah.
know.
Yeah, that's really fascinating. What else is on your punch list that's top of mind that you really need to, like, you're like, "Man, I just ran out of time. I didn't get these projects done, but that's the first thing I'm gonna do next year."
Yeah, I'm not done yet. This year's not over yet. Unfortunately, it's a couple weeks before season here. I had an excavator out there recently. We dug two really nice trenches for culverts. Culverts are coming from Menards here any day. Those have to go in before season to control the snow melt and the rain in April next year for the ground freezes.
Mhm.
I got a blind up there last weekend. The ladder's not on there. The platform to step into the blind's not on there, so that's not done yet. Those are the main things left would be to get that water
That's important.
flow. Yeah, done before season, before the ground freezes, and then I'd like to get that blind so my kids and I can use it this season. Other than that, that's really it. I'm not gonna go back there and top dress any plots anymore or anything like that. Cameras are up, scrapes are up. So the way I see it, if I booger up some of October to have everything set for December or late November, I'm happy.
Yeah. Well, I think if the forgiveness window is 6 days, I think you're gonna be golden. I think
I
you're gonna be just
we'll
fine.
see. I think
Yeah,
that happens. That time of year helps that forgiveness
for
window
sure.
too. If you're in November and you go do all that stuff, I don't think it's going to be a 6 day window. But yeah, that's the idea. So
Yeah.
I'm betting on that heavily.
Yeah, and then as far as next winter, it sounds like you still have more TSI, more timber to clean up, the shagbark hickories, the maples, and so that's probably is that near your top of your list?
Yeah, that's definitely on the top of the list. Sorry, I skipped that. I think anything that's not a oak that's left, I'm gonna cut.
Mhm.
There's a couple big aspen, and there's really nothing that valuable that's in there. Yeah, if you sat on it for 15 more years, you might get another soft maple harvest. The oaks won't be. So I'm gonna melee all of those. And I'm gonna picture like if you're familiar with the oak savanna.
Mhm.
That's like my favorite type of habitat. I wish I had a farm that was like that. I'm gonna do that, except it's gonna be like oak TSI savanna instead of the
Oh, yeah.
grasslands and stuff that
Yeah.
go through in the prairie. I don't have that, so I'm going to have just timber regen low, you know, 10 foot and below, and then these big oaks, whatever I have left of oaks, popping around, and a few tree stand trees. So that's the goal I need to get to, and with that, thousands more trees need to come down.
Thousands.
Yeah,
Oh, man.
yeah, yeah.
You need a habitat work day. See
I
45
know.
45 people show up to help do that.
Yeah,
You'd get more than you think, I think. Yeah.
if it wasn't August and 91 degrees the day we did the habitat day, I might have had some
Yeah.
more help on the
Yeah.
saw. But yeah,
Yeah.
I'm definitely gonna do that.
Yeah, everyone bring your chainsaw and we're
Yep,
gonna go to work for the day.
yep. Because
Uh,
that would help. I mean, even just like I said, getting the sunlight to the floor for the regeneration.
yeah.
Right now the autumn olive's doing well because it's shade tolerant and invasive.
Mhm,
So let's get rid of that. Let's get the sunlight down there, get rid of the junk trees, and get the regen, the ash, the young maple, the young oak coming back up, benefit the wildlife, and I actually dry out that ground like I started the podcast with. I need to dry that ground out more, and with that will come equity too.
mhm.
So that's still kind of on my punch list for sure.
Yeah, one thing that I loop jumping around here a little bit, but the conservation easement podcast I think was really interesting because I think there's this perception that you're just like totally handcuffed to what you can do, and I just want to talk a little bit about the projects you've done on that one. Um, what all have you been doing since then, and like what's something that would be surprising where someone listens like, oh yeah, you can't do that on a conservation easement, that you have been able to based off of going through the approval process and communicating appropriately.
Yeah. So basically, I've done anything that I've aspired to do on any of my parcels on that easement property.
It's amazing.
Um, and that's just with good communication, with knowing the people at the conservation. I don't know them. We don't go out for beers or anything, but like I came to them with a plan before we bought the property. So this is what I want to do. I negotiated 5 acres of food plots in there. There's not a
Hmm.
cornfield miles up there, so I was able to do that. That's kind of rare on a conservation easement. I'm still limited for like I can't put up 20 deer blinds. I can do I think 5 or 6, which
Hmm.
is fine for me. Tree stands at no limit there. I planted apple trees. I'm gonna dig a pond. I made roads through the place. There's certain limitations like roads can't be wider than 8 feet. So there's
Hmm.
certain nuances that you got to play by. But right now, I mean, it's doing great, and the regen's coming back. We had that big ice storm up there this
I
winter.
remember seeing that. Yeah, I did not appreciate how detrimental that was until I saw you post another one. I was like, holy cow.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's Mother Nature's way of getting sunlight to the floor too. Like
For real.
every tree on that property takes 70 acres. How many trees is that? I don't even know. Every single tree either had the top snap off it, or part of the canopy, the branch snap off it. Every one of them. So now my ground cover is insane.
Hmm.
Now they're going to use the path of least resistance, which are the logging roads that I now planted and have going to my plots and by my tree stands. So it really has been kind of an Achilles heel with getting my fun stuff done. We spent all summer cleaning up ice damage. So just a little bit of a time delay, but I mean, really, if the conservation easement, their goal is to protect these places from getting developed, mining, all of that stuff. Those are my goals too. So
Mhm.
we're speaking the same language. Maybe we talk in different fonts, but we're speaking the same language.
Buck Land Funding. If you don't know who they are and you're looking to buy a piece of ground, I encourage you to reach out to them. They're chartered in multiple states across the Midwest, and they understand recreational land. I've said it a million times here on the podcast. The most important piece of buying your first piece of ground is finding a partner, finding a bank that understands what you're trying to do, that has competitive rates and understands the world of recreational land, because not all banks are created equal, and Buck Land Funding understands our crazy goals of scooping up a piece of ground to enjoy it with family, to hunt it, to use it as an investment. They understand that and work with that every single day. I encourage you to reach out to them. If you're in the process of buying your first or 20th farm, reach out to Buckland Funding at bucklandfunding.com. Back to the conversation. Yeah, no, I think that's a really healthy outlook on that. And I think, does everyone have the patience to do that? What you're doing? No, probably not. But I do think that, communicating that you guys are on the same team can go a really long way, because, I'm sure there's probably another conservation project or property in the area, and they're like, Jared is a pleasure to work with, in comparison.
And
Uh,
they come by and check on me once a year. They let me
uh-huh.
know when they're coming. They come with their drone, or they'll walk it. And knock on wood, no complaints so far. So
Do they bring a tape measure for your roads? Like, oh, this is
I
actually
don't.
9 foot wide.
I think there's enough people out there that just say, forget them. I'm going to do whatever I want anyways. And they
Mhm,
focus on those bigger holes in the bucket than somebody who's playing by the rules and has the same goals in mind. So, and up there, like I said, we're up in the middle of nowhere, a lot of snow, and the cameras last year were awesome. So I expect
mhm.
nothing different this year.
How do you split time between northern Michigan and then where your home 40, we'll call it, and then how far of a drive is it to go up to your other farm?
It's knocking on 4 hours with
Okay.
kids in the car making stops and this and that. Um, I would not recommend that to anybody. It's like you have one tractor, you have one ATV and one truck, and you got to do both. It's
Mhm,
uh it's a challenge, but again, the goal in mind up there is that I'm gonna have that forever, and family place. We have Thanksgivings up there. We ski up there. It's That place is never going anywhere. It's
yeah.
amazing. So if I can shoot some nice deer there too, icing on top, and we already have. Um, but down here is where now my stuff's gonna sit. Because last year I left my quad up there, my tractor up there, and they got snowed in. Couldn't even get them home to come do work here in March or April.
Oh,
So
man.
I wouldn't say that's the smartest move to have two pieces 4 hours apart, but where there's a will, there's a way. I guess I'm pretty stubborn.
Yeah, well, and I also think they probably accomplish different goals. Like you mentioned, you have
Mm.
Thanksgiving there. It's like the hunt. I think it's cool that it's like
Deer
the
camp.
traditional hunt
Yep.
camp. Yeah, yeah, and yeah, you have friends up there, and like all that makes a ton of sense for sure. Yeah, what have you learned in your land journey? And this is more towards real estate. What have you
Okay.
learned in your land journey that might be helpful to someone that's just getting started out?
Yeah, and I don't want to sound like a broken record because I listen to your show quite a bit, and you always say it too. But get your feet wet, get in. So the first piece I bought, low interest rate, cheap, cheap property for in the grand scheme of things. The 40 was not cheap, and the interest rate is not low.
Hmm.
Um, so I've been paying on 7.95% for 2 years.
Hmm.
That hurts, but at the same time, I can see the goal in the future. I can see that I'm going to be on the winning end of this thing. Um, and I think that without knowing the projects you can do with sweat and time to change your piece to make it look drastically different, hold more deer, hunt better, drive equity, you can do all that stuff.
Hmm.
You can do all that. So I think just experience, honestly, versus sitting on the sidelines has helped me first of all, be confident in what I'm doing. You know, my wife doesn't question if I say I want to do this or that. She's like, yeah, I don't know what you're doing, I guess. So go ahead.
Mhm,
Um, and then like just once you do it once or twice, your brain just thinks about things differently. Like you understand, like, yeah, that's a good piece or that's not a good piece. So how do you know that? You've looked at a ton of pieces.
mhm,
You've owned a few. Like that's what you do. It's just experience. So I don't think land's gonna get cheaper. I don't know about the interest rate. We're supposed to hear more about that in the next day or two.
mhm.
Um, but either way, there's nothing I'd rather be doing with my time or money anyways. So I'm gonna chase my passion, you know.
Yeah.
That's probably the main thing. That and just again get a plan and you can make things happen on your own.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, you were able to take the 15 and then go to a 40, and then, like, I'm sure the 40 will probably be hard to sell from an emotional standpoint after you remember what it was the first day you went out there and looked at it, and then see what it looks like after all the hard work and development that goes into it. Have you I remember this vividly, on your 15, you had planted some fruit trees and you saw the fruits of your labor and you were able to explain that to your kids. On the 40, have you planted any fruit trees yet?
Yes, yes. On both parcels, we planted fruit trees. They're doing good, but it's going to be a few years before we get some apples on them and pears and whatnot. I'm the unlucky one who buys all the fully timbered farms, and there's not one apple tree ever anywhere,
Yeah.
like an established apple tree. So yeah, eventually we'll see what that means. Maybe not. Maybe I'll never see what a fruit tree does when it gets old enough because I don't know. Haven't had that luck yet, but.
You keep buying farms, they're gonna call you Jared Appleseed up there instead of Johnny Appleseed. Jared was here. There's apples here.
Yeah, I mean, it's I love doing it as part of the plan. So get them in now, you know.
Yeah. Well, I know you do habitat plans too. What's something that you if well, imagine someone reached out to you and said, "Hey, I think I'm going to buy this farm." What are you looking for first when someone's like, "Hey, I just want another set of eyes on this before I make this huge decision." What are like one or two things that questions or things you look at right away?
So going into that, you know, I'm gonna have the mindset of you can fix almost any problem,
Hmm.
right? Maybe a bad neighbor is a tough one to fix, but like water, I'm fixing that problem. No food plots, I'm fixing that problem. No fruit trees, I'm fixing that problem. So you have to have more of a blank canvas look at it, understand what your goals are, and are they achievable? You know,
Hmm.
if I was going to buy this 40 and say I'm shooting a booner out here, you know, in the next 3 years, it's not really an achievable goal. If it happens, great. But
Hmm.
I guess just to be able to take the 10,000 foot view and then know that if you do all the right stuff and put the time and the work in, you're gonna have equity in a couple years.
Hmm.
So like, how can you really screw that up?
Yeah.
You know, so, and again, that comes from experience. But I would say like and that's why people call and have us on the property and write the plans is because they have the most common thing I hear is I had that idea. I just needed somebody else to tell me that was the right idea.
Hmm.
And that happens quite a bit. And then you get some guys like the guy I bought the 40 from, he went and bought a bigger farm, gorgeous farm. He had all these ideas, he had his own plan written up. And I went in there. And while our plans were similar, just from a couple hour walk, he's like, yeah, I learned 4 or 5 things that I wouldn't even have thought of just from having a different set of eyes on there.
Hmm.
And I still take that same value when I have people at my place. They'll say, hey, why don't you cut the trees down and let that road dry out instead of putting a bunch of gravel on, spend a bunch of money to dry that road out, put gravel and fabric. And why don't you just give us some sunlight, save 30 grand? I'm like, oh, I didn't even think about that. Like
Yeah.
that's a buddy of mine told me that. So there's it's advantageous to have different sets of eyes out there
Hmm.
as well.
Yeah.
Um, and then you got to work with somebody like locally, like you in your market. You know the prices. You know what stuff's going for. I don't know that everywhere. So there's kind of I'd probably say, you know, at least understand the market where you're at too with a professional like yourself.
Hmm. I think you bring up a really important piece there. It's most problems can be fixed, and it's the worst thing you can do is do nothing too. So,
Right.
like, let's say you did buy something, you're like, I'm not happy, but I'm not willing to do anything. That's probably not a good recipe. And but I think to your point too, a lot of guys want to have some form of confirmation that their idea is right, because it's a lot of times it is a big it's not like we're trying to do heart surgery or brain surgery, but at the end of the day, sometimes it feels like the decisions have higher magnitude than maybe what they really do, or even down to like, really, should my food plot shape this way 10 yards or this way 10 yards. And people can get stuck looking at the, looking at the map for 10 days, trying to, is it really going to make a difference? I don't know. But that's just, yeah, I think those are all really, really important things for sure. What
Well,
about,
and one more thing,
yeah,
Jake, real
yeah,
quick. Sorry to interrupt you. I think on that point, Mother Nature heals itself so quickly. Say you don't make your food plot in the right shape, let a corner grow in, plant some natives or some
yeah.
switchgrass. You cut too many trees, which I've never seen in any parcel I've been on. They grow back, the tops disintegrate and feed the worms. Like it heals so much quicker than you'll even know.
Hmm.
That the mistakes you make or could make really can't be that bad.
Hmm.
If you think them through, like you said, doing nothing is the worst thing you could do.
Yeah. How do you have, not to pick on any past clients of yours, but do you have
Sure.
clients there that have been in that camp where like, man, we've been kind of just stuck for 2 or 3 years and not sure what we want to do, and then they finally get the courage to call someone to help. Is that a common occurrence?
I would say it's very common.
Okay.
I mean, how many guys sit and talk about buying land but never go buy land?
A lot.
Like it's yeah. So it's the same idea.
Yeah.
It's paralysis by analysis or whatever you want to call it. Insanity, doing the same thing over and over. Blah blah blah. The fact that these guys, you come in there and sometimes it's your dad that owns it, not you, and he just yeah, okay, son, you tell me to cut all these trees. I don't really want to do that. You have somebody else come in, okay, he's saying the same thing. They do it, then the dad, the property owner, is sending you trail cam pictures via email about how good it is, and I had that recently, so it's pretty cool to see that, and but yeah, I would, to answer your question, I'd say a lot of people probably aren't aggressive enough in a lot of things in life, really. So
It all comes down to action, no matter what it is, and I think that nature is very forgiving, and so is the world. In your own personal lives, like you can course correct a lot of things if
yeah,
you grit down and recognize that it's an issue. So I think that's carries over. Once again, whitetail is the north star for a lot of people, but a lot of the things, and whether it's professional or whatever the case may be, time will heal it. You'll get smarter. You'll figure things out, and if you don't do anything, you're going to be right where you started, or potentially worse. So yeah, I think that's really good advice. And the other thing too, when you bought your 40, you guys negotiated back and forth. Um, I'm assuming there was still probably some level of heartburn on the price. Is that fair?
yeah, it wasn't cheap.
Yeah. And so
Yeah.
now looking just into the future, how do you feel about it? Looking at other pieces that are substantially higher priced than, like, you're like, yeah, we did do good. Like,
I mean, I'm confident. I think we did good, and I haven't
yeah,
sold it or tried to sell it.
sure.
And the economy is doing funky things right now.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, even if I never sell it, I still have a cool hunting property just up the road where I can get to after school with a kid or whatever. But seeing what things go for, seeing what 10-acre pieces go for around here. I'm talking to some realtors, talking to guys who bought property near me. I feel more and more confident as time goes on that it was a great decision.
Yeah.
Even at that stupid interest rate, great decision.
You need to call Buckland Funding and refinance that, I
All
think.
right, all right.
time
Well,
time to go shopping.
that's again the solution to the problem. Wait for
Yeah.
a time and refi,
Yeah.
and then the heartburn will be less.
Yeah.
So if you can do anything, just figure out a way to do it. And maybe some things are harder than others and take longer or more time or money, but there's a way.
Hmm.
There's a way.
Yeah. If you could buy your dream piece, everyone has a dream piece. What does your
Yeah.
dream piece look like? Where's it at? And do you think you'll get to it?
Oh, I'll definitely get to it. I don't mean to be too boisterous, but I'm
I
pretty
love the
stubborn.
confidence. I
Pretty
love the
stubborn.
confidence.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's my wife. Super stubborn. So I think that the dream piece would be. I don't really have a size to it yet, but I'd like to go. You know, a few hundred acres.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be awesome to own a farm like Skips, right? And he started and got there too. So I don't know. I'd like to say 250 to 500 acres would be awesome. Um, Probably I've gone back and forth on the out of state thing. You
Mhm.
know, Iowa, I know guys who own ground there and they can hunt it every 5 or 6 years because they don't live in state. I think that would be tough. So I'm thinking maybe in state just for convenience. There are some good pockets in Michigan that are really good.
Mhm.
I think it would have to have a river bottom or a creek through it.
Okay.
I would want timber up against that, which normally would be,
Mhm.
the farmers don't farm right by the creek. And then I'd want
Unless you're in
some,
Iowa or Illinois.
yeah, well,
I'm
yeah,
just kidding.
yeah, they'll get every square inch, right? So, and then I guess from there I'd be natives and tillable up top to help make that a working farm and cash flow a little bit because nothing I have ever cash flows. So that's something in the future. But I think with the right neighborhood, so location, I still don't know exactly where that's going to be. Um, there's some of my land plan clients that I tell them, I'm like, you have a farm next to yours, let me know. Like there's one or two guys in particular that I'd buy 40 acres next to their 200 in a heartbeat.
Mhm.
So um, that's kind of what it would look like. Though it'd be very diverse. It would definitely have a river bottom for some cover that nobody else can get to, and that would be centrally located in the farm. And then we play around the edges
Mhm.
and strike. My buddy Jordan, we just did a podcast with him recently. He bought an amazing farm. Probably would be my dream farm. So something along those lines. Out of state, I think would be awesome. I just time of my life right now with young kids and sports and everything else is it would not be doable.
Mhm.
Um, so I don't know. I mean, any of the guys that you talk to who have their dream farm, have you ever thought about how many are out of state for them or not? Does that come to mind
Mm.
at all?
I would say typically they live nearby. I would
I think
say,
it, I think it
yeah,
helps.
yeah. I would say there's people that drive 2 hours. I don't know. There's some people. No, I think there are some. Yeah, there is some. Um, but I would say by and large, I think the reason why I think the rare occurrences where that's not the case, maybe they're in like worse than Michigan in terms of qual. Maybe they're from the South. Maybe
Sure.
they're out west. That would be the only scenario I could see that. Um, it was interesting. I think I asked Wes Delks when we were doing a Whitetail Master Academy video, and I was asking him. I'm inquisitive, right? So I was like, well, like where have you been seeing really great bucks? And he brought up Michigan and like a very specific neighborhood. He's like, I would buy there in a heartbeat. And so to your point, if you did get in the right neighborhood in Michigan, you don't have to be out of state. That would be a big old check mark
Yeah.
on the wish list there because you wouldn't have to wait in line for Iowa or drive 6 hours to Illinois or however far to Ohio. I think that makes perfect sense, but it'd be hard to find for sure.
Yeah, and the more time we wait and more time passes, it's going to be harder to achieve nearby, at least nearby me. So I think I think it's going to happen. I just don't know yet where that's going to be or how big that's going to be. Um, but the bones have to be there, and once you can understand what that means, then you can everything else you can change.
Mhm. Do you think growing up, did you ever think you'd have as much acreage? I mean, you're sitting at 130 some acres. Did you ever think you'd own 130 some acres? When you say that out loud, does it seem crazy?
Yeah, yeah. No, nobody in my family ever owned an acre, which is probably the reason I'm doing what I'm doing, somewhere back in my subconscious. But no, I never thought I did. And then, and now, 38. You look at what you've done, up to this point. You're like, oh crap, I could do a lot more. This stuff is achievable. And that again, that only comes from being in the game and experience.
Mhm. Well, I think anyone listening, that should be you buy your first piece when you're 30, you have over 130 acres at 38, uh, and you have a regular job, you have a full family, like, I didn't, and you're a cancer survivor too.
Yeah.
Like,
Yes, sir.
so it's
Well,
like,
yeah, that might have been one of the blessings. Is you realize that it's so cliche, right? But like you realize life's short and nobody's gonna do it for you. So
Mhm.
go figure it out. And then just yeah, I have a day job. I have a few side hustles.
Yep.
I have kids in sports that I coach. I don't sleep much, and it's just like you can sleep when you're dead. So yeah, all these cliche terms come into play, but being the having the cancer and getting surgery and surviving that was pretty much an eye opener. It's kind of like that midlife crisis, just a lot earlier than most folks have it.
How old were you when that happened?
29.
Okay, so then you bought a farm when you're okay. So that not that I'm just curious about that story because I see it on social and I'm like, heck yeah, every time,
Thank you.
you're still clear there. But you were 29, you had cancer, and then how long until you had that sorted out? Did you buy your first piece in the middle of that?
Before,
Before. Okay.
yeah, just before. Um, yeah, and let's see. So I found out I had it in, I believe it was February, same month I bought the farm. And then I was operated on in March. They cut off a third of my tongue. I had oral cancer, cut off a third of my tongue, and opened up my neck all the way up here to remove lymph nodes and make sure nothing had moved from the mouth to the rest of the body. Then it was just recovery, cut out and done.
Hmm.
Went back for hundreds of times to go get scoped and all that stuff. But yeah, that was God. God bless. It was quick and dirty and cut out and move on type thing.
Yeah.
Um, but that or not, I would have bought the farm. I bought the farm. I would have bought another one. Like it's just, I think growing up hunting public land, watching my buddies with their uncles private kill these nice bucks, and I'm shooting spikes that have already been shot in the leg. And true story, first deer spike already shot in the leg. Yeah, I was like, man, I want something more than this.
Yeah.
So it's kind of how that all came to be.
Yeah, one of the most iconic clips from the old days of the podcast when John Eberhart's, I can't remember. He's like, I got X amount of bucks in the Michigan book record book, and everyone but one had a previous wound. Some had as many as four, and that's ingrained in my brain. But I mean, that's Michigan deer hunting, I suppose.
That's real life stuff. Yeah, I remember that audio excerpt on one of your podcasts. And yeah,
Yeah,
that was, yeah, that's real. That's
yeah.
real.
Well, awesome, man. Is there anything else that you want to leave folks with, no matter where they're at in their land journey? Maybe they're saving up, maybe they already have a piece, maybe they've already bought and sold a couple. What's one thing just to close out the episode here?
Yeah, I would say set your mind to it. If you keep looking, find a piece. It doesn't have to be turnkey. I'd rather it not be. Find a lender who's willing to work with you. You say that all the time, but that's true. And then don't be afraid to go out there and make mistakes. You're not going to learn if you don't cut the wrong tree down or have the access in the wrong spot or have to move your blind. You're not going to learn.
Mhm.
So go out there and learn. And I still have a lot to learn. And if anybody has any questions for me, I'm happy to help too. So I feel like something I was meant to do is help people improve their land for better habitat. I don't know how or why, but that's what I do.
No, I think it's really cool, and I think this whole community is probably one of the most helpful communities that I've ever encountered. So I think that's just a cool thing that is really awesome about recreational land and land in general across the board. People maybe see themselves like when they were learning, and they want to help you. So I think that's a really cool thing about that. If people want to follow along on your podcast or anything else that you have going on, feel free to share that.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, Habitat Podcast. Been around for over 8 years now on all the platforms. Just look up Habitat Podcast. Vitalized Seed is our food plot seed company where we focus on soil health and lowering your fertilizer costs. That's really it, man. You can get me on Instagram, Facebook, all that stuff. Look up Habitat Podcast.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jake. Appreciate you.